Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Plucker's Wing Bar. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Sharief, Ishaq with us 30 minutes from now, talking Saints and a little bit of Pels as well. A little more audio from Brian Kelly, specifically about the communication issues that LSU seems to be having, specifically on defense. We'll do that in 15 minutes. But we'll start hour number 2 with the Tigers on the hardwood. LSU 3-0 in the young season under Matt McMahon, coming off the best performance of the season. And I would argue the best performance in quite some time by LSU basketball, going up to Manhattan, Kansas early in the season with a new team and just taking it to Kansas State on Thursday night. So now you come back home and you take on Charleston Southern before you head to White Sulphur Springs this weekend for what could be a couple of really important games for LSU. This game is actually part of that entire round robin thing, but the big games are coming up on Friday and Sunday of this week. Tonight shouldn't be an issue for LSU. Charleston Southern is really bad. This is a team that has lost all 4 of its games against D1 opponents by an average of 18 points per game. None of those 4 losses were by less than 10 points. They opened the season against Clemson at Littlejohn, and Clemson won that game by 27. Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and VMI each beat Charleston Southern by more than 10 over the weekend in White Sulphur Springs. The only team that Charleston Southern has beaten is something called Morris College from NAIA. So the 4 times they've actually stepped into their actual weight class, they've gotten hammered. So I wouldn't imagine this should go any differently. This is a Charleston Southern program that last year had longtime head coach Barclay Radeball abruptly resigned like 6 games into the season. So his top assistant, Sa Nimley, took over in the interim. They went 10-20, still kept him as the head coach. It's not a very good team, and that's evident. So tonight, as I look towards this game, I'm not talking about any sort of matchup. I'm not talking about any sort of strength that Charleston Southern has, any sort of weakness they have. They're not good. They shot it terrible in White Sulphur Springs. They shot 25% from three-point range. They shot 53% from the free throw line. They turned the ball over 38 times in 2 games. It's a bad team. So LSU needs to take care of LSU tonight, not worry about how to counteract Charleston Southern. And if you, the LSU fan, are watching, I've got a couple things that I'd like to see in this game that have nothing to do with whether or not you can beat Charleston Southern, because you can. LSU needs to protect the basketball. They've got to protect the basketball. You're turning it over a little bit too much. It's not like egregious, but it's a little bit too much, and I'll tell you why. Through 3 games, you've got 43 giveaways. You had 16 on the road against Kansas State. That's a little bit more than you like on the road. You had 15 against Alabama State. There's no reason to turn the ball over 15 times against Alabama State. When LSU is on the defensive end and they sit down and guard, they're really tough. So why would you let a team off the hook by giving them turnover opportunities that can create transition and you can't get back and set your defense? I'll live with the charge here and there by LSU's offense. I'll live with the wing making a catch and forgetting to put it on the floor quick enough and shuffling his feet and getting it traveling. Then you can go back and set your defense up. But it's the guys getting their pocket picked. It's letting teams get into the passing lane, making a careless pass, which you saw twice against Kansas State. Those are the turnovers you can't have. You need, this LSU team needs to make teams earn it when they get into the front court. And that's something they can focus on tonight. Don't get sped up. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Focus on your offense. Try to get a good shot. And then go back and set up your defense. Don't turn the basketball over. As far as, I'll stick on defense. LSU needs to keep Charleston Southern in the 50s tonight for a couple of reasons. You're playing good defense. You played really well against ULM and Alabama State, and that's fantastic. It's not going to steal any headlines. You were great against Kansas State. You held them to 65 points. You held them to 38% from the floor. You held them to 24% behind the arc. That stuff is awesome, and it will travel. Well, this is obviously a home game, but that's something you can lean on every night. if you were listening earlier, Glenn West mentioned this. I put it out on Twitter earlier this morning, and I wrote it at LouisianaSports.net. LSU leads the nation in three-point defense this year. They're holding teams to 16.4%. For perspective as to how good that is right now, very, very early in the college basketball season. LSU's first in the country. Longwood is second in the country in three-point defense. The gap between LSU and Longwood is 4.7%, 21.1% to 16.4%. The gap between number 1 in the country and 2 is the same as the difference between Longwood and Western Carolina at 30. The difference between 1 and 2, same distance between 2 and 30. LSU is clamping people down at the three-point arc. Now, if you were listening last week, I told you, three-point defense can be a little bit of chance. Sometimes teams get hot. Sometimes teams can't throw it in the open ocean even though you're not playing great defense. But now, through 3 games, LSU has held teams to 16.4%, and one of those was a prayer against ULM with a double pump under 2 defenders. So you're really defending the 3 well. You need to continue to do that. 1, because it's important as an identity of your team, but 2, because the net rankings, which I think are going to matter to LSU, I certainly hope they do factor in efficiency. So if you can beat up on some of these bad teams you play and juice your efficiency numbers, it's going to help you. I know that they say it's just a win's a win, and to an extent that's true, but if you really want to bake the numbers down, it does help you to have great efficiency marks. And LSU's defensive efficiency marks are very, very good to this point. We'll go to the offense now for tonight against Charleston Southern. Cam Carter needs a little bit of company in three-point range. He's been sensational. He can't keep this up, but he's 11 for 19. That's 58%. He's been fantastic. The issue is nobody else has been great. Jordan Sears is 5 of 15. That's fine. Same deal for Victorious Miller. He's 3 of 10. That's the same percentage. But I'd like to see Mike Williams shoot it a little bit better. He's 2 out of 10. I'd like to see Curtis Givens rebound from 2 subpar shooting days. That the numbers aren't bad. He's just 0 for 3 from 3, but he hit the backboard on one of them. So this should be a game kind of like Loyola of New Orleans, the exhibition. You ought to get some real open looks from 3 tonight. And I would just love it if LSU shot it a little bit better. Stands to reason Cam, who's been so good for 3 games, may take a step back and maybe only goes 3 of 9 or something from 3 of 10. But somebody else has got to step up and make some shots. Sears has been okay, but I've seen Curtis Givens shoot. I've seen Mike Williams shoot. I've seen Victorious Miller make a huge 3 in the game on Thursday. Now, Robert Miller, I'm a little iffy on the amount of 3s he's shooting. He's put up 7 thus far. He's 0 for 7, and a couple of those haven't drawn iron. That's something I'm going to need to see a little bit more of, but I'm surprised Jalen Reed hasn't hoisted up a 3. That's a guy who in SEC play last year shot 40% from the three-point line. So I'd like to see LSU make some jump shots tonight. They don't have to lean on that. They need to get to the basket as well. I want to see Jalen Reed work around the rim. I want to see them crash the glass like they did in Manhattan, and that leads to second chance points around the rim, and all that's great. But I'm just kind of looking at this team to evolve. And once again, tonight I'm not as worried about, the matchups and what Charleston Southern doesn't do well and where you can take advantage of them. Tonight's about LSU taking care of LSU. And tonight they need to shoot it a little bit better than they have from 3 in the last couple of games. So my 3 things to watch for LSU and Charleston Southern tonight: protect the basketball, no turnovers. Keep Charleston Southern under 60 points. That's very, very doable. And then make some 3s. Cam needs some company with some guys from the perimeter, so we'll see if LSU can get that done tonight. 7 o'clock tip-off. You can hear it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame from John Brady and Chris Blair will be at 6:30. If you're heading to the basketball game tonight, stop on by Pluckers. We highly, highly suggest you do that. Nicholson location, just there south of the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. You can go beforehand or you can go afterwards. And if you go afterwards, I'll be right there. I'm calling out some sports trivia questions. You can come hang out with us, win some Pluckers gift cards, drink some cold beer, eat some delicious award-winning jumbo chicken wings. Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. They bring you our Tuesday shows each and every week. When we come back, some more LSU football. Brian Kelly talking about the communication issues that LSU is having and what they're doing with the green dots. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Insurance is not the most fun topic in the world. I was in that industry for 7 years. Y'all know that. I've been in those renewal meetings when premiums have gone down. I've been in those renewal meetings when premiums have gone up. And my experience was that most of the time, all anybody cared about was the premium. Although I insisted, you might need to look at this whole package. If you have no idea what your insurance program says, just have no idea what the premium is and when it gets withdrawn out of the company's account, maybe call the Highland Insurance Group and have it audited. They'll do that for free for you. And then they'll let you know what needs to be fixed, and they'll let you know what markets they have that can fix it for you. They've got access to dozens of markets in the insurance industry, and they can place you in the right place for the right price. Obviously, premium is going to be important, but coverage is very much as well, because when that wrong thing happens, you want to make sure that your policy is in the proper place. The Highland Insurance Group can help you with that. Call Jonathan Carbo and his team. They're right here in Baton Rouge, but they can help you statewide in Louisiana. You can find them online at highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday, and I found these 3 sound bites to be interesting. It's one of those deals where when I don't know what I'm talking about, specifically, I always kind of walk tepidly. Because, I can tell you, based on the statistics that I rattled off, that LSU's not completing enough deep passes. I can speak very confidently and comfortably about that, and I did so at the top of the show. There are numbers that are hardwired and obvious. This is a little more ambiguous, and I'm not there for the communication on either side of the ball for LSU, but Brian Kelly kind of talked about both sides of the ball and how communication has gone. The first was talking about the play calling structure between Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan and Garrett Nussmeier and how that play gets onto the field.
Joe Sloan will call the plays. They'll certainly be on my headset. And look, like any head coach, he's going to be involved in the ultimate decision of whether that's a go or a no-go. Now, as you know, communication has broadened. That communication includes the quarterback as well. So it can't be this long, conversation about, this play, that play, or it becomes confusing to what he's hearing in his ear because the head coach is on that and the play caller, both on defense and offense. So there's only 3 of us that have that with the green dot. The key here is the ability to make sure that the game is going in the manner that I want it to go in. At times, you have to take that action as a head coach. Not that somebody's being put in the penalty box, but making sure it goes through the vision that I have for that particular game.
And that's the line where a lot of people, and I think there are people that are in this line of work that might jump in and say, see, he put him in the penalty box. Kelly's meddling. He's got the play sheet. He's overriding Sloan. Nussmeier's confused. They don't know what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. That sounds like a very standard first take style sports talk radio show. And I just don't really operate like that. My instinct is to say, well, I know that Brian Kelly is hearing this. I know he's telling me he doesn't override. I know he's telling me that Joe Sloan is calling the plays, that Garrett Nussmeier is getting them. And I just take that on its face. I have not seen a lot of instances where Garrett Nussmeier is holding his hands over his ears at the helmet and yelling back at the sideline for everybody to hurry up. It doesn't appear to me that there is a noticeable break in that chain. There is a noticeable inefficiency in the play getting in. I think LSU is getting the play in. Do I think they're executing it properly? Probably not. But I don't tend to leap immediately to, oh, this is a nightmare. Kelly's calling plays. He's benching Sloan. He's only keeping Sloan because Sloan's hooked to Underwood, and now he's stuck with it. That's all going too far for me. I don't know that. I think they're just not playing very well on offense right now. That's my take on the matter. Now, Brian Kelly continued about being able to override on the helmet comp.
So Garrett can hear you too?
Yes, yeah. I can override that. I choose not to, but it's something that you can do if you wanted to as the head coach.
Fine. That's fine. I heard Hester talk about this earlier today, and I'm always going to defer to he and T-Bob on matters like this because I have never had a helmet comm on. I have never been in the huddle with someone who had helmet comm on. I've never been in a stadium that had 100,000 people in it. Like that, that's beyond me. But Jake said, based on his experience in huddles, his experience watching LSU operate, and now his experience with a headset on simultaneously calling the game on the radio, his job solely in that spot is to speak between plays. Once one play ends, the tackle or somebody runs out of bounds or it's incomplete, Jake's got it until Blair needs to reset. And he's saying that happens really quick. Like, I oftentimes don't have enough time to finish my thought before Chris has got to set the formation again. So it's not like LSU is taking forever. There was a time with Les Miles here in Baton Rouge where y'all remember the check with me stuff starting. And LSU would get to the sideline, and then everybody would stare at the sideline. LSU would get to the line of scrimmage. Everyone would stare at the sideline and wait. And you could watch that and say, okay, there's a lot of talking going on, a lot of communication going on. It's not very quick. It's deliberate. And none of that is really the case with LSU right now. I don't sense that communication is a big problem. I sense that execution is a big problem. I don't sense there's some sort of fractured relationship between Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan, that there is some sort of complete lack of trust in Joe Sloan by Brian Kelly. I think Brian Kelly's got the headset on. He may have an offensive play sheet. I think that Joe Sloan is making the calls and Garrett Nussmeier is running it. They just need to do a better job of running it and playing and calling the plays. But I don't think the communication is a big issue. Now, contrary to that, Whit Weeks was doing an interview after the game on Saturday and said, hey, y'all's running defense was pretty good all week, all weekend, all Saturday. And then you gave up the 55-yarder. What happened? And Whit Weeks said, well, half of us were in one play and half of us were in another play. And that's one where your eyes about fall out of your head. You go, what? This is game 10. We're in late November, and we got half the unit that doesn't know what the play is? That's tough to stomach, and Brian Kelly was asked about that specific quote.
I'm disappointed that certainly there was a feeling that there were some mixed calls or signals out there. I think one of the big things that we've learned in this new era of communication in the headset for the players is there needs to be one voice. And even if you have the green dot, the one voice needs to be consistent and constant. And maybe that occurred. You know, we're trying to get to the end of that too and what happened there. But clearly that's on us as coaches. We have to make sure that there's clear communication and that there's no mixed messages relative to what being called.
Now, I started this segment telling you that I am only really truly comfortable talking about what I know. And that I'm not in the huddle and I don't know what they're telling the green dot or who's wearing the green dot, and I don't know what was relayed and what the assignments were and who blew it and why they were a touchdown and all this kind of, I don't know those kind of things. But I do know this. I do know that Brian Kelly just said right there, what we've learned is there really just needs to be one voice. So it sounds like that they've experimented with multiple voices and they've experimented multiple ways with the green dot. And I also know that in the course of fall camp, they were moving that green dot helmet all over the defense. Greg Penn had it. Major Burns had it. Sage Ryan had it. Like, they were moving it to different guys on different levels a lot during fall camp. And it sounds like they may not have fully settled on who it is that should have that. And part of this new era of college football, with all these new rules and equipment changes and all that, part of it is staying on top of all that, being ahead of the curve. And it feels like almost into an entire season with the helmet comm that they're still figuring out how to use it. And that's a little disappointing. You would like LSU to go into that first game with USC knowing who's going to have that green dot and who's going to communicate the plays and how the plays are going to be disseminated from there and all those types of things. Like, that's how this thing should run. And it sounds like they've kind of had to feel their way through it. That's a bit of a bummer. But you hope that they've figured a few things out and maybe they can get it together the last 2 weeks against a couple of teams that quite frankly, aren't very good. So we'll see. That's Brian Kelly talking about their communication on offense and on defense. Moving right along here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Pluckers Wing Bar, 2 locations in Nicholson, just south of campus, Bluebonnet in front of the mall, Louisiana. Get on by for a late lunch or an early dinner today. It's Pluckers. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. When we come back, Sharief Ishaq talking about the surging Saints. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical, boudreauxelectrical.com. Give yourself the peace of mind to know that you're not going to have to deal with power outages when there's a storm. Maybe it's a hurricane. We had those around here. Maybe it's a nasty summer afternoon shower that knocks the power out for 3 hours. It's a nuisance. Maybe it's a driver that hits an electric pole. Just protect yourself from all of it with a Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Every single Generac home standby generator that comes from Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 10 or 7-year warranty, depending on the type of generator that you decide to purchase. I'm never going to tell you about a VIP membership that you can pay more at Boudreaux's Electrical to have them service your account a little bit better. No, you're just going to be treated that way because that's the right thing to do. Neil and Melissa have been doing that for 40 years, and they're not stopping now. Give them a call, 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or in Gonzales, 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. It is Boudreaux's Electrical Services.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Pluckers Wing Bar.
We are chugging right along here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Pluckers Wing Bar. Hope your work week's off to a good start and appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Done a lot here over 90 minutes. Glenn West to go 24/7 was with us. Previewed LSU and Charleston Southern. That's basketball tonight. Certainly talk some LSU football as well. Time to transition over to the New Orleans Saints, who are white hot at this point. Taysom Hill scoring touchdowns. All is right in the Big Easy, and that's why we go to our guy, Sharief Ishaq, WDSU, down in New Orleans. Glenn, where am I going? It's Sharief. Sharief, how are you?
If I'm Glenn West, I'd feel better. I'd be like 7 feet tall.
You'd be tall.
I'd be really tall, and I'd have some kind of athletic ability. But I'm doing well.
Glad to hear that. Taysom Hill's got some athletic ability. What'd you make of his effort on Sunday?
I guess he became the first person to do everything that he did on Sunday. So that's, that would be good. That's the Taysom Hill I think the team wanted whenever the season started. But, of course, at 34 years old, he deals with a lot of injuries. Now, it feels like we get a Taysom Hill game like this once, maybe twice a year. And I guess they got it at a very crucial junction of the season, as they would say. So, it was good. It was nice to see him, do what he can do, running the ball, obviously. Throwing the ball, I know he probably would love the interception back, and the fumble was just, I guess, a good play. Just ripped the ball out. But, they got the offensive production that they desperately needed from him all season in one game.
Quietly, Trevor Penning coming on in his third year here. What have you seen from him? What have kind of been the reports from the Saints about Penning?
Yeah, in the run game, he's been really good, man. He's been really, fantastic in terms of run blocking. Had that one holding call, I believe, on Myles Garrett, but they neutralized him, and he was part of that. He was part of the reason for the success against Myles Garrett in that game. But, coming into the season, we said, man, this is going to be, a troublesome spot. This is it for Trevor Penning, and you got to give credit to John Benton, the offensive line coach, and his staff around the offensive line and getting Trevor Penning prepared for the season. And he and Fuaga, the two guys who've been healthy all season pretty much, and holding that offensive line down. But he's been fantastic. Up to this, point of the season, 11 games into the season, look, he's done everything you could ask and more.
So do the Saints have their tackles of the future, you think?
I do. I do think that they have the tackles of the future. That's, we came into the season asking that question, who else is going to be good along that offensive line outside of, I actually kind of thought that offensive line was good in 3 spots, but the other 2 positions, especially at right tackle. And, Penning has answered the call. And I think let's see how he progresses, and and if he can keep maintaining this throughout the future, not just this season. And yeah, I think he's good at right tackle, and Fuaga's good at left tackle.
Is it fair to say that in this Clint Kubiak system that the injuries that the Saints sustained at the offensive line spots are even more significant than the injury that they sustained on the outside at wide receiver?
I think it's fair to say with Eric McCoy. I mean, you saw that the offense looked better while he was in there, and then he got hurt his groin again.
Yeah.
I think that offensive line is very key for Derek Carr. It was very key in those first 2 games of the season, and you could tell how key it is in a win like that against the Browns. So I think it's the most important thing. I mean, I think they figured it out without Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave in there. MVS is playing well. I mean, you have some of the other guys chipping in. You had Kevin Austin. You have Dante Pettis playing. I mean, Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau out there catching passes. So they figured it out, but I think it's due to the offensive line and being able to keep Derek Carr upright and the play action game. Obviously, I think Kubiak has done a good job of rolling Carr out of the pocket when he's in trouble at times, and he's also done a good job just avoiding some of the pressures and sacks.
That's one of the only young position groups on the team is offensive line. So does that give you hope for the future moving forward, that can be kind of the linchpin of what the Saints are, whatever the next iteration of the Saints is?
Well, it needs to be, Hunt, because how many draft picks have they spent on
a lot.
The offensive line? A lot, right? I mean, like it's gotten there, whether if it's in a crazy way. Yes, the offensive line has finally gotten to that the status that they wanted. No matter where they pick these draft picks at, it's finally starting to show. You're pinning Sharief and Fuaga were all first-round pick. McCoy was a second-round pick. Now if they can just figure out and know if at the other guard position, whether it's Saldiveri or Lucas Patrick down the line, but maybe it's Saldiveri, and maybe next year you're looking at it. Hey, this could be what we're looking forward to, is that linchpin of the offensive line. That those are the guys. Those are the 5 guys, and we should be set if they can stay healthy.
That's always the major if with any team, and certainly the Saints not immune from that. They've also gotten the tight ends involved a little bit because the wide receivers aren't all that impactful. And you saw Foster Moreau, you saw, of course, Taysom, and then you also saw Juwan Johnson with a touchdown catch. So do you expect to see more tight end usage and then Kamara in the passing game than wide receiver moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, you have to at this point. I mean, you got to get them involved, got to get those guys involved. I think you get those 3 guys involved, it takes the pressure off of AK. I mean, that's the one thing that Darren Rizzi said after the game with Taysom's game. It really alleviated a lot of the pressure from Alvin and not having to do too much. Now, if you get those, other 2 guys a little bit more involved in Juwan and Foster, yeah, I mean, this offense, it looks decent. It looks decent to finish the season. I mean, it'd be nice if you had Rashid and Chris in this offense, because who knows? I mean, MVS, has that downfield explosive play, but if you had Rashid Shaheed with him alongside, that could be somewhat of a scary downfield situation for opposing secondaries. But yeah, those tight ends have to be very productive here moving forward in order to keep it keep that offense moving.
Do you think Darren Rizzi is a viable candidate to be the Saints' next head coach?
This is something we're going to discuss Thursday, and we're going to have a big panel here at WDSU. I mean, where do they go from here? But Darren Rizzi is the flavor of the month here right now. I mean, he relates to the everyday person. I mean, he's a great soundbite, and players love him. The 2 things that they preach when it comes to Darren, and Darren preaches it, is accountability and unity. And he has the players' backs. And I think that players love that, and that resonates throughout the entire locker room. You'll have a chance, Hunt, but the chance would be like essentially finishing 5-1 the rest of the way. If they go 5-1, and I'm stuck into the part where they have to make the playoffs under Darren Rizzi for him to get the job. I really do. I mean, the guy's injected life, energy, passion into this franchise, not just the team, the entire franchise and the fan base. So, to me, in a good associate head coach, good special teams coach, I think he would have to make the playoffs in order to become the head coach. But crazier things have happened with this franchise. They may, you saw it happen with Coach O at LSU. Man, got hot. Players responded to it, and they kept them, and they won a national championship. And maybe Rizzi wins the rest of these games. Who knows? I don't know. They have some tough teams to play as they get towards the end of the season.
Defense has played better the last 2 weeks. Dennis Allen moving on. What do you make of that?
I think some of the moves along that defense, putting Brian Young in charge of the defensive line has helped, in terms of being a little bit more productive in run defense. I mean, I think they only gave up 65 yards this week against the Browns, but there was the secondary just really struggled. They struggled a lot. I mean, I think Alontae Taylor is struggling out there. Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid's essentially first game back, and Ugo Amadi back there. I think more of the secondary struggled this week than the run game. I think that it's better. It's getting better under Joe Woods calling plays. I mean, you knew this was going to be an adjustment period whenever you started making changes like this. When Rizzi put him in charge and you moved Todd Grantham off the line and you're making a bunch of shuffles, it was going to be a work in progress. It's not, finished product. It's not 100%, but at least you're seeing a little bit better progress with the defensive line. And then you're playing Cam Jordan more snaps and increase throw what he wanted, and I think maybe you're starting to see a little bit better play from the defensive line since you put him in there.
Got big bye week plans?
No, not really, man. I'm just chilling. And bye week is great. I kind of like it this late in the season. The weather cools off a little bit. Can just chill and watch football without having to not get mad, which I apparently got.
You want
mad.
to come to Baton Rouge and watch LSU wear gold jerseys?
No, I think I got a little too mad this past week. I think I'm going to have to chill a little bit with LSU with these final 2 games.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that are taking that advice for the next 2 games for LSU. Let's talk about the Pels then. Speaking of awesome stuff, the Pels somehow got a win over the Nuggets, but have lost a lot of games, and they'll go to the Mavs tonight. What do you think?
I need to see this. I need to see if Luka Doncic is going to play. I have not seen the injury report for them. And look, Hunt, it's so hard to play with a lot of these guys that are playing on the court right now. I mean, we're talking about some of these, bench players, G League players. I mean, at some point in time, you build these leads with Brandon Ingram in the lineup, and you're like, all right, they're going to have a chance. And they had a chance to beat the Lakers, but ran out of gas and ran out of, it's this end of game execution, Hunt. These last 2 or 3 minutes, when they get in crunch time and the game's on the line, it just seems like they fall off completely. And Willie Green is responsible for the execution in terms of drawing up plays after timeout plays. I mean, we've been sounding like a broken record. Like, yes, they need to get their players back, but in some of these games they've had chances to win at the end, and it's just the execution has been at a very low level. And look, I mean, even if Luka doesn't play and Kyrie is playing, and they just have some, bigs out there that's going to give them trouble. I mean, Lively, Gafford, they can't control the inside and they can't control the turnovers. They're just going to lose again. I mean, it's unfortunate to say that, but that's just where they are right now.
It's a tough spot. We won't spend too much time on that. We'll let you go. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week, Sharief. Thanks, man.
Anytime, Hunt.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down there in New Orleans. All your Saints coverage, all your Pels coverage. He's always with us on Tuesdays. And, of course, you can find him at WDSU down there in the Big Easy. We will take one more time out. We'll come back and close out a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis of Baton Rouge, think luxury. It's a luxury line of vehicles. When you think luxury, you don't think, I can't afford that. I'll look somewhere else. Might want to check again. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. And you can stop on by Airline at PQ. They haven't been there that long, so you haven't heard of them. There's a reason for that. But they're there now. State-of-the-art facility, phenomenal line of vehicles. They are sleek and stylish. They're comfortable, and they're safe. Every single vehicle in the entire Genesis line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. We understand it's a big deal when you're shopping for a new vehicle to make sure that it is one of the safest cars on the road, and you can be promised and rest assured with Genesis that is certainly the case. Again, every single car on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge, the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. It's right here in the capital city. If you're looking for a new car, you're on Airline Highway, make the stop on PQ right there near Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
congratulations to Don Barrow from Prairieville. Don is the Week 12 winner in our 2024 College Football Pick'em Contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 13 this Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. That's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters. And 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is your new home for the New Orleans Pelicans tomorrow night. The Pelicans host the Toronto Raptors. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. LSU and Charleston Southern tonight. 7 o'clock. Get on by Pluckers before, during to watch, or after. We'll be there 8:30 sports trivia tonight, giving out Pluckers gift cards, cold beer, delicious jumbo chicken wings. Pluckers, 2 locations, Nicholson just south of campus, Bluebonnet in front of the Mall, Louisiana. We'll be at the Nicholson location tonight at 8:30. Hope you will as well. What you got?
I was wrong about the game. It's actually tonight. The game is tonight. They're playing the Mavericks at 7:30, as we talked about with Sharief. I'm not sure how I missed that. I was just, like I said, whenever I read these things, I'm Ron Burgundy. Like, whatever is on there, I'm going to read it.
Just going to go with it.
So, yeah, they're playing the Mavericks tonight at 7:30. It'll be here on 104.5 ESPN.
No update on Luka to this point, but none of the Pelicans are going to play. So I think it's going to be all Birmingham, the whole Birmingham team.
Yeah, well, you would think that, except there's one guy, Carlo Matkovic, who played really well in the summer league. He's a big man. He's like 6'9" or 6'10". And for some reason, he hasn't got any minutes. You would think that with all these injuries, he would, but not any of the big men have really gotten hurt for the most part. If you could say that the Pelicans really have big men, I mean, they've got
Zion and Herb.
They've got Eve.
They're starting front
They've
court.
got Eve Messi, pretty much the only one, and then Daniel Tice. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty bare bones.
My suggestion: no Pels Mavericks tonight. Just go with the LSU-Charleston Southern game.
That's fine. Yeah, you know what's going to happen in that game.
It should be enjoyable. So that's my advice for you, the basketball fan tonight. Also, just get on by Pluckers. All right, we got one more order of business. Take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The Cowboys attempted to open the roof of Cowboys Stadium prior to their game last night against the Texans, and 2 giant pieces of metal fell from the ceiling onto the ground. Thankfully, no one was where the metal fell, but obviously could have been some serious injuries there. And, of course, Jerry Jones brushed it off and said it wasn't that big of a deal. But some metal falling from the roof. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, that is a huge, huge facility. I've been in a couple times. Like, that metal's got to be massive. And, like, if you're in the line of fire there, like, you're not going to be paying attention.
No,
I mean that's terrifying.
Yeah, and you can't. I don't think you really be able to hear it because it's just like flying through the air. Like
hopefully it makes
a noise
sound,
when it first comes out.
Off,
but yeah,
that's the end of the line right there. That thing comes down.
It is.
That's just there's no two ways about it. It's bad.
Yeah. Speaking of ballparks or stadiums in Texas, Minute Maid Park is no longer the Juice Box. It's been renamed Dakin Park. Take it or leave it.
I mean, you got to leave this.
You got to leave it. First of all, they should have never changed. Obviously, Enron Field was the best name. They should have never changed that.
Home Run Field. That's tough. The Juice Box is great. I actually really like going to games at the Juice Box.
It is nice.
I've been to 2 LSU weekends there, and then I've been to Astros Cubs and Astros Angels. And just very much enjoyed my viewing experience there. They have a Pluckers.
Yeah, they do.
In the old Juice Box. They've got other barbecue options. The cold beers are expensive.
As they are everywhere.
Not the Falcons games. But
it's after the Falcons.
It's a little pricey. Not tonight from 6 to 7 before tip-off at the PMAC. They got those special concession prices the hour before. Yeah, but... I mean, that's disappointing to not have the Juice Box. I feel like that's a great name, and you can't use it anymore. But money is money is money is money, and we just take money at every turn.
All right, next one here. Paul Skeens won Rookie of the Year. And by the way, if you haven't seen the video, it's pretty hilarious because they announce him winning it, and he just says, that's pretty cool. And that doesn't really say much else besides that.
So you've got, like, the 3 greatest pitchers in LSU history are Ben McDonald, Aaron Nola, and Paul Skeens. And you've got Aaron Nola and Paul Skeens who just, like, don't speak.
Yep.
And then you got Ben, who's the voice of baseball, and like the face of college baseball. Like
he's literally a commentator.
The biggest personality in the sport. it's quite a dichotomy there. But yeah, Paul just not one to get super amped up.
No,
I
not
remember
really.
very distinctly having him on the show when he transferred in, and I got finished with the interview. I felt like it was going to be a good interview because he was in the Air Force and like he was a big name in the transfer portal, and he was going to come to LSU, and I just felt like there were going to be some real talking points to hit on that might be very interesting that he could go deep into. And he's obviously very bright. He just is not chatty. And so this is a chatty medium. That's a chatty medium on TV when you get that. And it's just not going to be his personality. And Livy's there and she's yucking it up, but he just doesn't have a lot of a big personality.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we talked about last week, Kyle Hendricks for the Cubs. It's the same way. Just they're very stoic. But again, I mean, I'll take that as opposed to a guy that that can maybe get up and down in terms of their emotions if they're playing well or bad. So
you just never know. Like the extreme examples are like Chase Burns from Tennessee and Wake, where he's just going absolutely bananas after every one. Carlos Zambrano, the old Cubs pitcher, just wanted to wear every emotion.
Matt Garza was pretty fiery guy.
He was. There is plenty of that, and there are guys that are just going to keep it absolutely to the vest.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Skeens is. Skeens his demeanor is going to work out just fine. I have in there like, is he going to be the Cy Young favorite next year? I think yes. I think he is the biggest name in pitching in the National League.
If he had pitched all season last year, he would have been in the running for it.
Chris Sale's numbers are outstanding, and he's going to win it. But he is getting up in age. You wonder if he can replicate that. Maybe he can. You never know. I mean, some of these guys have pitched really deep. Scherzer and Verlander have kept their velocity for a long time, but I feel like with Skeens on the come, and if you're not Vegas is not trying to project who's going to win it, they're trying to manage the money.
Right.
I think he will be the guy who gets he will be the biggest exposure they have.
All right, we got one more here. As the Sports Center mentioned it, but the New York Jets are just trying to find people to fire at this point. Who can they fire to fix the problems? They just fired their general manager, Joe Douglas, after he was there for more than 5 seasons. The Jets just need to fire everyone. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. They need to keep Quinnen Williams. They need to keep Sauce Gardner. They probably need to keep, help me out with the Ohio State wide receiver.
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, they need to keep.
Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know if they need to keep him. I mean, he hasn't even been playing well.
It's not looking good. They tried. I don't think it's a bad plan. I mean, that roster entering last season looked good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. They have to actually play good.
Got to play the games.
It looked like it was going to be awesome, and Rodgers was still going to be able to function. He was coming off an MVP season. It looked like it was going to be there, and everything is just falling apart, and that's tough. I feel like a lot of times on Sundays, I'm on the sidelines just kind of watching how everybody's doing. I'm so invested on Saturdays in one, doing a job, and two, like with the team playing. But I feel like I notice a lot more misery on Sundays. We've been talking about the Bears all week.
Yep.
Jets, I mean, Greenberg's going nuts up there. They're talking about it. Like Sean Fennessy from Simmons' site, he's distraught every time the Jets can't do anything right. There's just a lot of that. I mean, I feel a lot of Jaguars fans because they had a funny tailgate, and I got caught in like 5 of them. And they got beat worse than they've ever gotten beat over the weekend. It's just, there's a lot of sadness in the NFL, not to mention they're down the road for 7 weeks where they were losing every week. So just a lot of Sunday sadness in the National Football League, and the Jets are not immune to that.
They are not.
All right. That's about it here for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up today talking about LSU's inability to throw the ball deep. There are statistics that back it up. ESPN's Deep Analytics had some thoughts, and I gave some color to that with some of the things that I brought to the table. There's a story on it up at louisianasports.net that you are welcome to check out, or you can find it here on demand. I talked about the uniforms at 1:15. Basically, tried to be as logical and rational as I could be without just going nuts like I do sometimes on the uniform. Basically, what it boils down to is I don't need the television broadcast to interview the left fielder during the game. I don't need LED light shows all the time. I don't need fancy uniforms. I don't need the NBA to dye their courts different colors and play tournaments in November. But some people do. That's what keeps some people interested, and that's what's got to happen from time to time. But I think LSU's compromising its brand by doing it. Just my thoughts. You can go back and listen to them it is what it is. Glenn West was with us at 1:30. He talked a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball, some LSU offensive line talk at 1:45. LSU basketball against Charleston Southern tonight. I previewed at 2 o'clock. Also over at LouisianaSports.net. Some Brian Kelly-Audio and Sharief talking Saints. If you missed any of it or all of it, catch it on demand at 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, and of course on YouTube. Matt's going to drive you home on AFR next. Hope to see you at Pluckers tonight. If not, same place, same time tomorrow. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is that website. Robbie Bolton's been at this for 2 decades. Professional athletes have trusted their bodies, their recoveries with Robbie Bolton. You can do the exact same. Keep in mind, if you've been in an injury, if you've had some sort of surgery, if you've had issues and you're in pain and you're trying to rehabilitate, you can go wherever you want for physical therapy. You don't have to go where someone recommends. You can say, hey, I'd like to go to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. You should, because they're going to be hands-on with you from start to finish. None of this, here's an exercise list, do some of these, we'll see you next week. No, those licensed physical therapists are going to be with you, hands-on, dry needling, soft tissue manipulation, cupping, whatever the case may be, whatever's best for you, they'll get that done for you. They're here in Baton Rouge. They're on Starring near Highland Road behind Sammy's Grill. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. You can find them online at evolvept.com, evolvept.com.